What's up, everybody? And welcome to my very first devlog, where I'll be showing you guys the progress that I've made in this past month working on my game. This game is about the kingdom of Hamelot, where you play as Porkler who defends the kingdom with his trusty sword Excalibur. Overall, this is a devlog to keep myself and those interested updated about my progress, while also keeping myself accountable and motivated to continue. I want this game to be a sort of 3D platformer where you fight off monsters and go through a story to save the kingdom. Not gonna spoil too much for you, as it's still very much a work in progress, but it should be funny, lighthearted, and fun to play. Right now, I've got some basic movement in here, some dashes, some jumps, some ground pounds. Nothing too crazy, still have to implement some attacking, some enemies. That would be the next thing on the list to do. But for now, let's show you guys what I've been working on the past month, and let's get right into it. So to create the 3D models, I'm using Blender. No, not that Blender, this Blender. I wanted to go for a more fun, lighthearted, 3D painted style, and decided that I could tackle it all myself and created these 3D assets and painted them myself. For the game engine I'm using Unreal Engine. Epic Games is the one who owns and manages it. And if you don't know who Epic Games is, then you don't know what Fortnite is. So Unreal Engine. Why Unreal Engine? Well, I chose Unreal Engine because I'm lazy. Let me explain. Unreal Engine has what's called Lumen and Nanite. I can make models with thousands of polygons, triangles, and not worry about the game's performance. Not that I'm gonna do that, but I'm lazy. Not only does it have Nanite, but it has Lumen, which handles all the lighting for me. I don't have to bake lighting. I don't have to go in there, do the nitty gritty, the boring stuff that I don't want to do. That's why I chose Unreal Engine. On the first iteration of my game, I decided to focus on movement. I wanted to make the movement feel responsive, snappy, and overall good. I added a simple sliding mechanic as well, and learned how to tweak the values of my character to get different results. At first, everything was going well. Movement felt good, things were great, but as I added more and more movement types such as sliding, crouching, jumping after sliding, and other things I wanted to add, like an air dash, I realized things would get messy and complicated. That's when I discovered something amazing. Enumerators. Here I have an example of where I'm using my enumerator macro, which is always checking what state I am before I execute an action.
Wow!
Here it will do or not do something when I press the crouch key, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm just standing, I'll go into crouch mode. If I'm running, however, I will go into sliding mode. On the contrary, if I'm already crouching and I press the crouch key, nothing will happen because it's not hooked up to anything. Similarly, if I'm sliding, sprinting while crouching, or in the air, nothing will happen. So once I've got most of my jump logic, dash logic, running logic, I moved on to animation. So Blender does this thing where it likes to delete your animations. And unless you click this beautiful little shield button where it says fake user, it's probably gonna delete your animation. And I don't know how many times I had my stuff deleted till I learned I need to press this button. It definitely took me a while to learn the animation in Unreal Engine because it handles it a little bit differently than I'm used to in Unity. Essentially, what you've got here is the E-movement enumerator that I showed you earlier. I love enumerators. This enumerator turned out to be way more useful than I thought. It automatically is getting all of my information from my blueprint and feeding it into my animator without me hardly adding anything to it. It knows if I'm standing, it knows if I'm sprinting, and I just plug in the animations. The only thing I really had to do was create these things called blend states, because in my crouching and my standing, I also handle sprinting and sprint crouching in the same thing. so I had to blend it based off of what my velocity was. So if my velocity was 0, it knew go into the idle animation. If my velocity was greater than 0, it knew go into my walking. If I move this green's X more to the right, he goes from his idle animation into his walking animation. However, I like my game to feel a little more snappy, so he kind of snaps from 1 to 0. He goes boop and boop. So this handles most of my movement, but I do need to handle my air movement a little differently. So I'm blending between, this is my ground movement and this is my air movement, which this gets a little more tricky. It gets kind of messy. It's really hard to read. These kind of buttons mix and meld in each other, and I figured out a little better bit of a way to do this than I did it here. Things look a lot nicer in here than they did in the other one. And I'm using these things called aliases, alias, which essentially is just a reference to my other things. So I don't have to go from, okay, if I don't have to go from dash to falling, and I don't have to go from jump to jump, or dash to jump, and I don't have to go from dash to fart.
Oh, by the way, the fart is just a double jump. That's what I named it. I think it's gonna be funny to give a little fart sound whenever they do a double jump because they're pigs. Anyway, let's get on.
And within these lines, I can do all the checks necessary for transitioning into the respective animation. At first, I was having an issue where I would walk off a cliff and my character would go into a jumping animation rather than straight into the falling animation. All I needed to do was to check if I had pressed jump right before, and we would know if I jumped or fell. It was a small yet annoying thing, and these seemingly simple things are what you don't realize can be so hard to pinpoint until after it's fixed, that you realize what an idiot you are. Hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. You may have also noticed that I have this weird blue sphere thing, and I was just playing around with adding another dash, so I think in later levels when I unlock the dash, I'll have it possible to fly through hoops or fly through these spheres, and these spheres add another dash to me. Now, if I were to do that, I have multiple dashes now. Every time I go through it, I can dash again. So that might be fun for like a little floating island, maybe like there's poisonous water that I die on one hit and I need to use my dashes and jump through those little hoops. Just something I was playing around with because I figured I could implement it real fast. It really didn't take me all too long to get it done. And yeah. I then decided I would start creating my little assets in Blender, and did run into a few small issues, one of which I didn't learn from my mistakes before, and I kept losing my textures every time I would paint them, and they would disappear. I did not know what was going on until I realized it has the shield icon. It has the shield icon. Press the shield icon. I ended up repainting things way more times than I really wanted to, but in the end, it kind of came out a little better than I expected, and I ended up figuring out how to use UVs to my advantage so that I didn't have to paint the whole thing, and instead I just had to redo some UV mapping, which is pretty much just tells the 3D model, hey, this is where you should put the texture.
After getting everything modeled and painted, I decided to start putting the assets together to create my first environment. I made my models to be modular so that they would fit together like a puzzle, and I could put them together in Unreal Engine. So I got to it. I spent a bunch of time creating and putting together everything, just for it to crash on me. And of course I forgot to save. Hey guys, if you've made it this far in the video, huge thanks to you. Any and all support I get will mean the world to me. Just wanted you all to know it's been a huge learning curve to actually push myself this month and reach a goal of not only getting this far with the game, but also with this video. I had to learn Blender, Unreal Engine, and video editing software along the way. I'm really hoping to show you all next month my leaps through the game dev journey. Let me know in the comment section what you'd like, dislike, as well as any recommendations or things you'd like to see in the game. So yeah, here we are, the Kingdom of Hamelot and Porkther. Right now, I don't really have any plans on making my own foliage and texture for the landscape or my own trees. Those seem like pretty simple things and not really anyone's gonna care too much that I made it myself. That and the water shader. This one, I don't think I could ever make anything look as good as this one. The little foam on the ground looks great. Entering the water actually has a nice screen effect. Coming out of the water, similar effect. I just really enjoy how this came out. Probably gonna make my own dock because this came with part of one of the packs that I downloaded. But I just figured I'd make my own little thing for now, you know, a little placeholder. And I've got these boxes, they move around too. A little fun thing I didn't show earlier, and the barrels may move as well.
Anyways, that just about wraps up the first devlog of Hamelot. Hope y'all enjoyed, and remember to hit that like button, subscribe, click the notification bell, you know, tickle the algorithm a little bit. Keep it crazy, y'all.